Hi there, and welcome to the Somewhere Between Here and Healing podcast. I'm Viv, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of navigating life after growing up with a narcissistic parent. Together, we'll explore the messy, the funny, and the downright unbelievable stories of family, life, and self discovery. Please let it be known I am not a therapist nor claim to be an expert in any way. I am simply someone who's been through it, still figuring things out, and I'm here to share my story with you. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get this thing started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Oh my gosh, I want to start today by mentioning something I did in the last episode, or episode number 2, depending on when you are listening to this. I made a narcissistic reference to the wrestler Lex Luger, aka the narcissist, but I absolutely said his name Lex Luthor. Listen, I don't claim to be perfect in any way, and I get so nervous recording these, but still, I'm so embarrassed. Just to clear it up, I did mean Lex Luger, the wrestler, not Luthor, the DC comic supervillain. That aside, today I want to talk about something that happened to me just a few days ago. I was in therapy, and honestly, it was one of those sessions where the words just came spilling out before I even had time to catch them or think about them. It's like I had been holding on to those thoughts for so long, and suddenly there was no stopping me. I don't know if you've ever had one of those therapy sessions, if you're in therapy, or just like a friend session, where your words come out tumbling like a chaotic emotional avalanche. That was me. I swear I could hear myself talking, and it was like I didn't even recognize my own voice. It was a truth bomb just dropping. It shook the whole room, and I'm pretty sure my therapist was like, whoa, okay, that's a lot. But here's the kicker. Right afterwards, I felt this wave of guilt. Yeah, like when you accidentally eat the last cookie and then wonder if it was worth it. Except this cookie was a truth, and it wasn't just meant for me. When that session ended, I felt it guilt, heavy, sharp, like it settled right into my chest the moment that chat ended. And it wasn't because I had lied. It wasn't because I had said something untrue. I wasn't feeling guilt because of something I said in that manner. If anything, I felt like I was finally speaking the truth, a reality that I had lived and a reality that I had been too afraid to voice until now. But that guilt, it stuck around, it lingered. Afterwards, I kept replaying that conversation in my head. Should I have said something softer? Was I being too harsh? Was it really that bad? Maybe I was misremembering some things. Maybe it wasn't as terrible as I said out loud. After all, talking about family, friends, people close to me, people who raised me. But here's the thing, it's not always about family, is it? That guilt, the one that rises after we speak the truth, it can come up in all kinds of situations. Maybe it is a friend, a partner, a different family member, a parent, a sibling, an aunt and uncle. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's even a stranger. But the feeling is the same. You speak your truth, and then boom, a wave of guilt. It's not always for the same reason, of course, but it can feel just as heavy. Speaking the truth is supposed to set us free, right? But what happens when we're met with that guilt after we do speak up? Now, guilt isn't just a feeling, it's like a weight that presses down on us, makes us question everything we've just said. It creeps in potentially right after you open up, after you share your story, especially when that story can involve difficult truths. Let's say you've been holding something in. Maybe it's something about a friend, something they've done to hurt you. Maybe it's something in a romantic relationship that you've been too afraid to bring up. Or maybe it's even a truth about yourself, one you've been hiding from others, or one that you may even have been hiding from yourself. You decide it's time to own that, time to speak up. So you finally say it out loud. And like I said before, there it is, the guilt. It can be immediate, sometimes suffocating. You start to question your own words. Wait, but did I hurt them? Maybe I said it wrong. Again, was I too harsh? Was it really necessary to bring this up? Was it really necessary to bring this up now? Should I have let it go? Should I let it go now? It's a volley, a mess of emotions. You can feel anger, frustration, or sadness, all things that have motivated you to speak in the first place. And then immediately that second wave hits: doubt, guilt, self judgment. And suddenly you're caught between two extremes. While you might want to honor your truth, fair, you also feel like you're being faced with that fallout. And that fallout affects not only you, but everyone else involved. For me, saying those things the other day, it felt like I had opened Pandora's box. The things I said in therapy weren't just mine anymore, they were exposed. They're now out there, raw and vulnerable, and they could never go back into that box. And that's kind of terrifying, right? Because once you speak and speak up, it can change everything. It can change your relationships, how people see you. It can even change how you see yourself. Now, it's easy to think of guilt in terms of a family dynamic, especially when I'm speaking, because that's where most of my guilt comes from. A parent child relationship, for example. But what about other relationships? The guilt that arises after speaking the truth can appear in so many other forms. What happens when you speak that truth in a friendship? Maybe it's betrayal that's been festering for years. Maybe it's a friend who's been toxic, but you've been far too afraid to address it. And then one day you finally snap. You tell them the things you've been bottling up for so long, and you finally stand up for yourself. But then, what if that guilt rushes in? Those questions again. Am I being unreasonable? Am I ruining this friendship? What will they think of me now? And it's not always personal guilt, it's relational. You start to wonder how they feel, what they might be thinking, and whether your truth is going to push them away. What about romantic relationships? Maybe you're in a relationship where things aren't working, or you've been too scared to admit, too scared of hurting the other person, scared of the impact on both of you. It affects multiple lives after all. Or maybe you've been lying to yourself about what you need or want simply to keep the peace. And then one day you say it: I need something different. I need space. Maybe it's I'm not happy. And in that moment, you can feel a mix of relief and immediate guilt because suddenly the truth isn't your own. Again, it's affecting someone else. It can be messy and it can feel like a game changer. But that guilt, it's so common. It's a part of us that cares about others and doesn't want to hurt them. At the same time, it's the part of us that needs to honor our own truth, no matter how messy it feels. And I'll be honest, it can feel like a tug of war, a battle between the parts of me that want to protect those I love and the part of me that needs to finally speak out and say, this is what I need. This is what I've been carrying. And this is what I might need to let go. The weight of this guilt isn't just emotional, it affects us physically too. Now, when I spoke my truth the other day, I felt my body literally tense up, which is not funny in that sense, but kind of funny given if you've ever been to therapy, one of those where do you feel this in your body moments? And I felt it. My heart raced. I wanted to take back the words. The truth felt heavy, like it was too much to bear. And it really was guilt, but it wasn't just guilt. It was that self doubt. Do I really have the right to feel this way? Was I overreacting, being too sensitive? But then I thought, what happens if I hadn't or we don't speak the truth? When we bottle everything up, when we suppress our feelings to keep peace or to avoid fallout, it eats away at us. We can start to feel disconnected from ourselves, a feeling of not being heard or seen. And that feeling can make us feel small, invisible, and misunderstood. The longer we hold it in, the more disconnected we can become from who we are and what we actually need. When we stay silent to avoid guilt, we're essentially rejecting our own needs. We can start to lose touch with our own truth. And when we do that, we can't show up as our authentic selves, not to others and not to ourselves. For me, I realized something big during that session. That guilt, it's part of the process. It's not about getting rid of it entirely. It's about acknowledging that feeling and not letting it silence me. The guilt doesn't need to go away completely, but I began to recognize it for what it was, an emotional response to a necessary truth. Now, here's the thing: you don't have to apologize for your truth, you don't have to justify it, you don't have to make it easier or lighter for others, and you certainly don't have to make it smaller for the sake of someone else's comfort. Sometimes we hold on to the belief that everything must be one way or another, that in order for us to feel justified in our emotions or actions, we need a clear cut answer. But the reality is, life is rarely that simple. Two things can be true at once. It is possible to love someone deeply and still feel hurt by them. You can be grateful for your experiences and still wish things had been different. And that's the messiness of human existence: contradiction and complexity. It's the idea that truth isn't a singular fixed thing. It's fluid, it's layered, and it's deeply personal. For me, this is one of the most challenging things to embrace. I can love my family and friends, yet I can also hold space for the hurt that they have caused me. Both of those feelings are valid. I can honor the good parts of my past while still acknowledging that there was pain. They don't cancel each other out. The coexistence of these emotions doesn't make either one less real or less significant. It's a recognition that complexity is what makes us human, that we do not need to choose one truth over the other to honor our experience. We can hold both, and in doing so, we can open up space for deeper understanding and compassion for others and mostly for ourselves. When you speak your truth, even if it's messy, even if it hurts, even if you feel guilty, remember one thing: it is your truth. And that is where the power lies. Your story, your life, your truth matters, even when it makes you uncomfortable, other people uncomfortable, and even when it causes that guilt. And that guilt that follows is not a sign that you did something wrong. It's just a sign simply saying you're honoring yourself. And you don't have to carry it forever. You don't have to let it stop you from speaking up. And most importantly, you do not have to shrink yourself to make others feel okay about your truth. So let's be real. Speak that truth if you can, even if it's messy, even if it makes you feel guilty, even if it just makes waves. You do deserve to be heard, even if it's to your own self. You deserve to own your own story. I know it was a little bit of a shorter one today, but I just really wanted to talk about this and get it out. Something I'm just feeling in the moment. But before I end this episode and close today, I'd like to leave you with just a couple questions. Is there a truth that you are avoiding? And if so, why? Have you ever felt guilt after speaking up, whether it's with a family, friend, a partner, or even with your own self? And maybe, just maybe, how can you give yourself permission to speak your truth without that full weight of guilt holding you back? As we navigate these messy emotions going through this all, it's important to remember again, and I keep saying this, your truth matters, no matter how complicated it may feel in the moment. Healing doesn't require us to have all the answers or to make sense of everything all at once or sometimes ever. It just asks that we honor what's real for us. Thank you for listening and for being with me today, for sitting with these truths, and for giving yourself the permission to speak up when you can and when you're comfortable. Until next time, take care of you and keep embracing your story, hopefully without guilt. Viv. Thank you for listening and spending time with me today. I appreciate you all so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow me on social media. Your support means the world. Plus, it really helps a podcast grow and reach more people like us. And don't forget, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your questions, share your story, or just drop by to say hello at vivvance@gmail.com. Until next time, remember, healing isn't linear, life can be unpredictable, but you are never alone in this journey. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.